In this episode, I'm going to help you to shine a light on the areas in your life where you have disappointed yourself, where you felt you let yourself down. As entrepreneurs, as difference makers, as big-hearted people, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves at times. And when we don't exceed our expectation, that leads to feeling guilty, remorse, and downright sitting in that victim mentality. So I'm going to shine some light on that and show you exactly how to navigate these waters so you can never essentially have to feel sorry for yourself again. So, big promise here, stay tuned. I'm Adam Kadu, and it's time to master the art of real heart alignment, where you live, work, and play from your personal power as energy aligns, your gifts flow, and life simply works. These life-changing conversations are designed to help you to see what you're not seeing, hear what you're not hearing, and to be who you're not being, as the world needs more heart-centered leaders now more than ever. Are you ready to say no to living a half-hearted life and say yes instead to boldly living from a place of real heart alignment? Welcome to the Adam Kadu Podcast. Yo. Welcome back to the Adam Kadu Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Kadu. Now, who else would be the host of the Adam Kadu Podcast than Adam Kadu? Start referring to myself in the third person. Having some fun here. So you guys, it has been 3 months, like almost on the dot, 3 months since I have recorded a podcast. Like I think I probably have recorded, 2 or 3 podcasts in the last 10 months since my little man Jax has been here. A lot of growth happening. However, I can see at times where I look at my expectation of what I would like to create, how I would like to perform, if you will, the person that I can see myself as being. But if I'm not there, I'm simply living in this state of disappointment. And now growing up, try this on. What's the absolute worst thing that a parent could say to you that could just crush your soul? Now, probably the worst thing they could say is, I don't love you, right? I'm sure that would just shatter somebody. Never had a parent say that. But I, many times in my life, had my parents tell me, I'm disappointed in you. Oh, I can feel it in my gut today. I can feel it. And so if you start to look at yourself as a entity, you can start to see, you have parts of yourself at times, and when you're in your wholeness, you are not fragmented, but you are working together with all parts of yourself as one, right? And so when you start looking at yourself and your behavior, you can see different facets of yourself. You can see that best version of yourself. You can almost feel it and taste it. You get close to it. Sometimes you're striving towards that. That's one idealized version of this overall entity, if you will. But also there's a version of yourself that you just downright don't like. And chances are we don't spend enough time looking in the shadows to see exactly what has transpired to create that part of yourself that you don't like. And also we don't look deep enough to really see if there's lessons there, if there's gold there, because it's usually through some pain and struggles that we see growth, and we also see reward. Because if life was just given to us on a silver platter, which it was for me early on, and I'm going to speak about that, how boring is that going to be for one thing, and how disempowering is that going to be for the other, because you're not equipped for anything in this life. You've been given it all to you. So then when something goes awry or there's some sort of a challenge in your life and you don't have the experiences, you don't have the lessons, the deep wisdom, the knowing from experiencing that moment in time, you won't be able to navigate these challenging situations in the future. So, with that being said, that disappointment. There's this, concept, we've talked about it before, self-integrity, right? And I've actually studied self-integrity and read different articles and papers on it. There was a phenomenal book that I read. I actually don't usually recommend reading this book, just because you can watch a YouTube video and get the great sense of these 6 pillars. But the book is called The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden. One of the 6 pillars of self-esteem, this was my biggest takeaway in reading this book probably in 2016, was one of the 6 pillars to self-esteem is self-integrity. And it made the case, the hardcore case, that if you commit to something, even if it's a thought in your mind, like I didn't write it down on my to-do list, so that means I don't have to do it today. But if you have the expectation in your mind, like here come Monday, I'm recording this podcast. And then if you don't do it, guess what? You lose self-esteem. You lose a part of yourself. You lose personal power. You feel a little disappointed, right? And I'm here to tell you that if you feel disappointed often, and you're trying to take action to not be disappointed anymore, you're essentially working from a disempowered state of disappointment. That dis word. I'm always looking at words, and I'm going to talk about some interesting words that I was researching in just a little bit. So hang with me on that. So if you are not following through with your intention, you are losing personal power. However, if you're the type of person who can set an intention, I'm going to do this by a certain date or whatever the case may be, and you follow through, you gain personal power. You gain strength. You gain trust in yourself, which, as you know, is absolutely huge. But what happens is a lot of time we don't follow through. We let ourselves down. And because we allow our minds to be the pilot and the plane of this life. I was talking to a friend the other day, and I was making the case for, no matter where you're focusing your attention, that is your reality. If I am sitting here and having some sort of a interaction with my wife, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, she's always like this, and blah, 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 and I'm playing this game. I'm focused on the negative aspects of the conversation and the negative ways she's been in the past. That's my experience. But if I'm sitting there present, looking at how beautiful she is, looking into her eyes, connecting deeply with her, really trying to find the gold nuggets that she's sharing in whatever she's, talking about, that's my experience. I'm grateful for that moment. That's my experience. And so I get a chance to really start to look at myself as being the creator of this life just by how I interpret experiences and just by where I place my intention. And so when it comes to not following through with something, you start to see yourself as the type of person that doesn't follow through. And then you have this mental chatter going on when you do start attempting to follow through again, right? And so for an example, if I was going to do a Facebook Live, I'm telling you guys, like the first 2 years that Facebook Live was a thing, like I wanted to do it for years. I hope I'm not exaggerating too much. I can guarantee it was probably at least a year. I don't know when Facebook Live came out, but I did my, actually, I don't know when I did my first Facebook Live in 2016. Crazy. And I would set it on the calendar. I would write down my intention, but I could not find the courage to take that action. And that's because of one freaking reason only. I would talk myself out of it. Because in my mind, the mental chatter was me. That was Adam. I am my thoughts. If I'm thinking this must be real. This must be reality. But when I started to see is in stepping back and, after I read the book, The Power of Now, my wife just asked me this morning, she said, if you could recommend one book that changed your life, what would it be? Easy. Power of Now. And in that book, I got a chance to see that I am not my thoughts, but I'm actually the thinker of my thoughts. And I started watching my thoughts. And I went on like this crazy 8-month experience to where I was so freaking present. And obviously, habitual beings, I fell back in my own way and, got in my funks and all that stuff. But little by little, inch by inch, I continue to watch my thoughts. I continue to separate myself from my thoughts. And here recently, I turned it up a notch. I decided I'm going to do ice baths or cold plunges, if you will, each and every morning. Now, I've been doing cold showers each and every night for probably about a year. I think I did them, years before that for some point in time, but pretty consistently every single night. And every single night, my mind tries to talk me out of it. Literally, I know I'm going to do it. Like there's no way, because I've set myself up, and this is a big key here. Like really take note, if you will. In my mind, when my mind starts talking, yes, I can dismiss my thoughts and I can shift my attention and all that stuff, but sometimes it just comes back, right? Like I move my attention, then it comes back. And then so I'm in this game of trying to move my attention and it's just coming right back. I'm doing my best to hold it, but it's just coming back. So in those moments, I can project myself into the future and to see what the rest of the night is going to be like if I don't take my cold shower. And now I run hot, right? I run hot. My wife runs cold. So that's a fun dynamic, but I think that she's got to a standpoint. We both got to a standpoint where I can run a little cooler and she can run a little warmer. But if I do not do a cold shower, I will literally, like, my body temperature will take a long time to drop. I won't sleep well. That's going to set me up for a crappy morning, which is going to set me up for a crappy day, which means I'm going to make bad choices. So that is so critical for me to know that there's a consequence to me not taking that action. Okay. Also, there's a benefit yet again. I get to see myself and squeeze out that voice a little more that's trying to tell me no. And I'm telling you, it used to scream and I'd freak out and I'd be like, this isn't good for you. And, oh, you should do more research. Like, and just like all this stuff coming at me when I was taking cold showers. And now I literally can take a cold shower without batting an eye. Yes, it shocks me every time. My mind's going to try to talk me out of it every time, but I don't delay. I just do it. Now, these cold plunges, that's a different story. There's been times the last week, I've been doing it for probably about 8 days. I took yesterday off and I traded with myself. I decided, hey, look, if I'm going to trade one hard thing, because in the back of my mind, it's literally my mind talked me out of it because it's like, well, it's Sunday. The Lord says to rest day. So that means don't do what you always do, which is just silly. Like, why? I wanted to do it all day. Like there was even last night, I was like, I should just jump in there real quick to keep my streak alive. And I'm like, okay, forget it. That boat has already sailed. But I did run twice yesterday. So I wanted to make sure that I traded that not for comfort, but to do something that my mind does not want me to do. And I haven't really jogged in a while. I used to love to jog. My mind tries to talk me out of it because it wants me to stay the same. It wants me to stay Adam that's, 20 pounds overweight and just soft in the middle a little bit and is just okay, right? Body's just okay. Mind's just okay. Doesn't want me to run. It doesn't want that pain. It doesn't want that suffering. It doesn't want me to, get in one of the modes where I want to push myself. So back to the cold plunge. And I'm going to wrap this, guys. I'm going to wrap this in a nice, tidy bow for you. So we're just building here. I'm just building the context for this. So stay with me. So these cold plunges, guys. So I bought this tub, 100-gallon Rubbermaid tub. It's kind of like for watering cows and, and things of that nature. I got it from a farm store. And I put a board over it, put some weights on it so the little guys don't, Bentley doesn't try to get in there. And so the first morning, the temperature wasn't crazy, because I think it was still cooling off because I, just filled it the night before. But I think, what did I say? It was 45 degrees. And so in that moment, I'm like, oh, it's 49 degrees. I remember now. And so in that moment, I'm literally like, is this too cold? My mind is like just freaking out. And I stalled for probably 30 minutes that morning, like literally was stalling and, and just kind of like my brain wasn't on board. My brain wasn't thinking. I was sluggish. I was, trying to like look at all the research and see, is there a certain way? And what do I, just silly stuff. It's like, no, just get in the damn water. So I got in, I think I lasted 1 minute, 40 seconds in there, which was amazing. And it literally was, it was like, I could watch myself freaking out, wanting to delay this action that I know is going to help me. It has tremendous health benefits, right? Reducing inflammation, slowing your heart rate down. I really feel like in doing this, I've been more clear mentally. And also I feel like there's more blood flow that's going to my brain where it maybe was not really reaching there in the past, if you will. But also I've been getting like 5 hours of sleep from the little ones, but I'm not going to complain about that today. Okay, back to it. So day number 2, I jump in, and literally day number 1, I set this expectation basically for failure, right? I went in with like, no way I'm being disappointed in myself. If I take this action, that's it. I'm good. Literally, I even said, I did a video, check out my IG stories or IG reels or whatever. And I said, 10 seconds. That's my expectation, 10 seconds. If I'm in there 10 seconds, I'm good, right? Because I just knew I could focus for 10 seconds. I stayed in there a minute and a half, minute 40 seconds. So it was a huge win. right? The second day, I didn't have any expectations because it was a lot colder. It was 15 degrees colder the second day. I lasted 40 seconds in there. And the whole time when I first get in these ice baths, which they're not ice. There was ice a couple days. They're just cold plunges, but it was 32 degrees. And literally the first 15 seconds, like everything in my mind, I was about to say my being, but my inner knowing is still. There's this wash of peace that just comes over me after like the first couple initial seconds. But literally it's just like the first 15 seconds, my mind is going crazy. Your hands are getting numb and, it's just too cold and, blah, blah, just all this stuff. Like literally it's like wanting me to jump out of there. And literally I'm about to jump out the first 15 seconds. And then I get still and then I get settled and then I get in my power and I really get to see myself as this person that can do hard things. And as this person that doesn't have to pay so much damn attention to my mind because it's not me. It's literally you've heard it a million times. I've said it a million times on this podcast. It's literally trying to keep you safe. It wants you status quo. It wants you doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I've gotten good. Even I used to overeat like crazy, or not overeat, but I would binge or whatever. I would binge eat. I'd have a little moment of stress and how do I handle my stress? And then I would go and I would look in the cabinet and that's all she wrote. I'd lose it. Little by little, inch by inch, I started witnessing that behavior. I started seeing myself and I knew there was a consequence. I knew there was a disappointment. I knew there was a guilt. I knew there was a victim mentality after that binge. So little by little, inch by inch, I could see myself trying to talk myself into doing that behavior. Well, it's been a stressful day and you'll just have a little bit, you have a little bit of this, and I could see myself talking to myself. And it's crazy. And so day number 4 or 5 of the cold plunge, I literally had like probably the top 3 worst nights of sleep in the last 10 months with Bentley and Jax. They were both waking up through the night. And I just knew right away, I stalled for like an hour that morning. Like I laid in bed, I stalled, did not want to get in there. And I kind of got to a point where I was seeing myself as somebody that lets myself off the hook. Because there's been numerous times where I'll get a new planner or a journal or things of that nature, and I'll do it for like 7, 8, 10 days. And then the newness rubs off. It's no longer new. It's no longer a novelty. It's serious. It's commitment. And that's where I usually falter, right? So I knew if I falter here, that's gonna break me a bit, right? Talk about disappointment. And yes, nothing has any meaning except for the meaning you give it until you actually feel it. And then you can't really erase the meaning because you have deeper tied meaning to what it means to let yourself down. And so there's work to be done there. However, nothing has any meaning except for the meaning you give it. But I guarantee if I didn't do it, if I wouldn't have followed through that morning, I would have felt it. Even if I held my attention strong all day long on another place, I would have felt it and it would have hurt because that disappointment hurts, right? Because I know I can do great things. I know I can follow through, and I know I've let myself off the hook too damn much because my brain's going to talk me out of it. I mean, I wanted to do a podcast for 2 years. I did a podcast, I think a marketing-based podcast in, 2012, something like that. 2014, something like that. And then I didn't launch another podcast until like 2017, 2018. And it was like this thought, this idea that I wanted to do every day. And I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't pull the trigger. And seeing that there's something on my heart that I wanted to do and I just wouldn't do it because I talked myself out of it. Damn, I was losing power back then. And so now, even in the short time I've been doing these cold plunges, I can see how I have the power to jump into action quicker than I realized. Because look, there's 2 types of people. There's inhibited, which means resistance, if you will, and there's disinhibited. So people talk about like alcohol, you become disinhibited, you have no filter. You have no resistance. You're just going, you're just saying shit. And when you're inhibited, you're holding back. And so there's like 2% of the population that's disinhibited. That's the Gary V's of the world, the Tony Robbins, the people that are just on it. They're going, they ain't thinking. They have no governor, if you will. They have no slowdown mode. They're just going. But the rest of us, we're inhibited. We have some sort of resistance. We need to think ourselves into action sometimes. But sometimes there's this huge gap between what you know you want to do or what you feel you need to do and actually doing it. And the whole trick is to get better at squeezing that gap, knowing what you want to do and then not having to sit forever before you do it. Like literally, if I was going to do a Facebook Live back in the day, there's like no joking about it. I would sit for hours sometimes thinking about it, getting ready to push the button, trying to relax, trying to not have this freaking, adrenaline running through me. And I would sit and put so much space, so much fear, so much thoughts, so much insecurities in between just going. And now we need some of that sometimes. We need to have a little bit of clarity of what it's going to look like in doing this. But the whole time, if you think too much about it, your mind is going to feed you all the crap that's going to scare you into complacency. And I said long ago, that's the thing that I fight against most in this life is complacency. Because I've saw what that looks like for myself. I see what it looks like in others. And it's a scary freaking place. And most people don't know that they're in that place. Most people don't know they're living from a place of complacency. Even if they are taking some actions, even if they are doing some things, they're setting back and they're not really squeezing the gap between what they want, how they know they can show up, and where they are now. And so these thoughts, this morning I had lack of sleep. I woke up and I don't usually do this. Let me backtrack. Thank you for hanging with me in this conversation, those of you hanging. So back in 2014, you probably heard before, I've talked about this depression that I was in. Deep, dark, scary freaking place. Like even saying that, like I get an emotion in my solar plex. I wake up every day, debt was mounting. I would look at my computer screen, 550 tabs open. I had no freaking clue what I was doing. No idea, no plan, no direction. No sense of intensity, no sense of urgency. It was just fear. And little by little, inch by inch, I fell into this depression, this dark place. Like just the thoughts were just literally like that was my reality. Like those thoughts back then, they were creating and feeding everything. Like I saw it clearly. But I couldn't get out of it. I was trying positive thinking, trying to get out of it. And little by little, inch by inch, I had to work from this place of physiology first. Allowing myself to feel good, allowing myself to feel strong, allowing myself to feel in my power. And in order to do that, I did something, and I really feel like, I had heard about prompts or affirmations or incantations, and I had never at that point heard about mirror work. I thought it was something that I just made up. But what I did is essentially I had this script that I wrote out to myself, and each and every morning for months and months and months, I would say this script with a little bit more conviction each time. And I would look myself in the mirror, and I would really put myself on the line. And I'd really question things, and I'd really sit there and I'd really add some intensity into who I knew I could be. And I added a little bit more pain into who I was now. So that way I knew I was going to move, but it was crazy. Like it would literally, that buzz, that high, if you will, that state would last 5 minutes. And then I was down in the dumps again, questioning life, questioning what I was doing, questioning where I'm going, stress, insecurities, doubts, mindless eating, had to take naps during the day. It was just it was a bad freaking place. But I essentially started talking to myself in a way that would influence me. And there's been times in the past where I've had coaches that just did not know how to move me, did not know how to connect with me, because they were trying to motivate me from a place of putting me down. And instead of motivating me with the same energy, the same intensity, from a place of building me up. And so I started talking to myself in a way that built me up, that basically boxed me in to allow no more excuses. And yet again, little by little, inch by inch, I pulled myself out of that dark place, and things just started working out. Things started happening because I was showing up differently. And so in this state of lack of sleep, one of the worst nights of sleep I've had in 10 months, I did not want to do my cold plunge. It was cold outside that day. I don't know if that was the day it snowed. It was freaking cold. And I started talking to myself. Not from this place of, oh, we can do it tomorrow, or, oh, you don't need to do it today. You probably should get going on some breakfast and, and get some stuff going, blah, 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 blah. However, the mind was going to try to disguise itself as reasonability to talk myself out of it. But I started cussing at myself. I started saying, enough with this shit. Enough. And that stopped me. It stopped my world. We get so ingrained sometimes in our habitual ways of being. And we think we're transforming. We think we're doing the right things. We're doing all the stuff that the gurus tell us to do. But if we're not squeezing out that freaking voice, if we're not really looking at it from the standpoint of this division in yourself, then you're going to continue to allow that voice to run the show. And so I like to look at this as well as like this. I don't see this as a part of me. Because if it's a part of me that is just like, hey, look, man, this is kind of dangerous. I don't know, not sure what we're doing here. I'm going to honor that, right? But I know this limiting voice. I was about to call it a bad name, but I know this limiting voice. I can hear the tone. I can know it when I see it because I've studied it. I've watched it for so long. And so I know it was simply wanting to keep me to be complacent. And that wasn't going to be the case. And so I told myself, I said, get your ass in there. Get in there now. Stop thinking about it. Go. And I got in there. And I had this breakthrough. I had this moment of clarity that shows that I'm the type of person that does hard things. Not because I want to beat myself up or punish myself or force myself into a box, but because I know what I'm possible of or what I'm capable of. I know what's possible. And that's one of my gifts as a coach is seeing what's possible in other people and not being so passive, if you will, and allowing people to hold their excuses. I want to stand for you. I want to make sure that you're seeing what you need to be seeing to be doing what you need to be doing. I want to help you to hold yourself to a higher standard. Not just from a standpoint of, money and, running your business and, being the best version of yourself, but also from the standpoint of changing this world. It's a wacky freaking place we're living in. And there's a lot of huge-hearted people that care so deeply for others, but at the same time, they're so freaking worried about how they look that they allow this silly little voice to live their entire existence. That voice is one small, tiny, itty-bitty aspect of this reality. But we allow it to place such a huge importance on what we're doing, on our experience, and on this life we're living. So I'm here to say today, tune into that voice and ask yourself the question, where in life am I letting myself off the hook? Where is that? Is that in how you're showing up? Is that in business? Is that in your relationships? Is that a part of you that's unwilling to have tough conversations? Where are you letting yourself off the hook? Is it in your health? Is it in your fitness? Is it in, taking care of yourself and self-love and caring for yourself? Where are you letting yourself off the hook? And I also realized in this time that in growing up, this is not a realization of mine, but I was tying this together. My mom literally did everything for me. Like she babied me. I mean, there was times, and I thought it was cool back then, I could brag to my friends that my mom would do my science day projects for me. Like she would do them. Like the night before, she would get them done. I'm like, cool guy, because I'm like, Mom, my mom did this for me and blah, 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 blah. But then I get out in the real world and I start getting my ass handed to me. I don't know how to do nothing. And I literally, like, if somebody's like, hey, look, go talk to the financial assistance place, talk about getting a student loan and things like that. I'm like, wait, what? Where was that would be, and where would I get the reason? No clue. Like literally, if you would have left it up for me, I wouldn't have got going because I didn't have that skill. I didn't know how to, have that sense of urgency to do things for myself because I had it handed to me. And that was scary, right? And so now I'm looking at things, letting myself off the hook, babying myself. Oh, maybe we don't need to do this, or yeah, you can have this today, this snack today, right? And there's no ill will towards my mom in doing that, but I just see and I look a lot. It's like, what characteristics are playing out from my parents or my upbringing? What programming is there that I want to get rid of? And one of them is definitely letting myself off the hook. Letting myself off the hook, talking myself into not doing the thing that I committed to doing. Because I was committed to one thing for a very long time. And that was not committing to anything. So now there's things that are literally starting to build up in my heart. These last 10 months, I haven't launched any offers. I put out a promotional offer, very quick 3-day offer, probably like a month and a half ago. I had certain things that I was planning on doing this year and I was excited about, and literally like lack of sleep and just navigating this world with 2 kids. We lost our nanny 6 months ago, and it's been trying, it's been challenging. Yet again, I've experienced the most growth this year than any other year. More of like transformational growth, inner growth, knowing myself growth, but it's been freaking painful. And I could easily let myself off the hook. I could easily be like, it's okay. We can just, start again and inch into this thing. But I'm bursting on the scene. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to help more people. I'm ready to show up in a brand new way. And guess what? Being out of the game, quote unquote, out of the game for a little bit, my mind was like, we got to think this through. We got to really have our plan, really nailed down, all that stuff, which is great. I love to plan. I'm getting better at that. Getting more organized. I love that. That's important. But yet again, there was so much room, this huge gap in between knowing what I want to do and committing to it and just freaking doing it, and the idealized version of how it needs to be. And so when I start doing these cold plunges and I start forcing myself, not from a place of, yet again, punishment or force, but more by power, when I start forcing myself from this place of personal power and knowing better to do hard things like cold showers and cold plunges, going to the gym, running, things of that nature, all of a sudden I gain a tremendous amount of personal power back because I see myself even more clearly in what I'm capable of. And I know that through doing hard things, the things that you've talked yourself out of over and over and over and over and over again, and if nothing's coming to mind right now, chances are your mind has done a great job of disguising that from you. But there's things that are going to keep popping up, that you're going to carry with you your entire life and look back and say, damn, I should have done that thing. Or you're going to squeeze out the middle and start getting into action and train yourself to do so. And I'm not going to say you're turning into Tony Robbins or Gary Vee in the blink of an eye. I'm certainly not. It's taken me years to get to this point where I'm, have more conviction in my heart. I don't have to play it as safe. I can get out into the, future. I can get out into this moment and not have to have it all figured out before I go. There's going to be this moment in time, though, we're going to look back and say, damn, I literally thought about this my whole life. I wanted to write a book, wanted to start my podcast, wanted to launch this offer, wanted to help these people, wanted to donate some time or some money or whatever. And if it keeps coming up to where you're delaying, you're losing personal power. If you can start to lean in a little bit quicker, a little bit faster at a time, and just jump a little bit, not have to think as much and just get yourself in this environment. A mentor of mine gave this analogy years ago to me that was super helpful. He says, what golfers do when they're getting ready to swing, right? He said, first thing they do is they get in the box. That's the tee box. That's the environment they're going to tee off. They get in there. They get in the environment. So step number 1, put yourself in the environment. So if that's doing a Facebook Live or doing a podcast, get the environment set up. Get your camera set up. Get your microphone set up. Get your computer set up. Get in the environment. And then what they do is they take a quick little look, right? So just see what you want to see. And for me, I just like to know how I'm getting started at this point. Because I literally would think all the way through every single podcast, every single video, every single thing I did, and it would take hours and hours and hours. And they weren't any good because of it. They weren't any better because of it. And so now I take a quick look. I see how I'm going to start, see where I want to take the thing, right? Do a little waddle, get in there, maybe take a quick practice swing, and then let it rip. Let it rip. Swing away. So get in the box. See what you want to see. See where you're aiming. Do a little waddle, get that moxie, get that energy going, like literally like move around a bit, and then swing away. And so the last thing I wanted to share is I was doing a little research on, I love looking up words, and I would invite you guys to look up words too. Like if there's a word in your industry, even if it's manifestation or, performance or anything, you have the ability to really get to know that word better than anybody in your industry. So that way you can break it down, allow people to get on the same page as you in how you see that word. Say, for an example, the word performance, for me, it means putting on a show, acting, right? Where performance for somebody else might be like getting stuff done, focused results, like, squeezing, time out of the day. And so if I'm going to try to own that word, I'm going to break it down to allow somebody to see the word in the way that I would like them to see it. So look up the words, look up the root words. Where do they come from? Where's the origin? And so I was looking at the word intense as intensity, because I know sometimes people see that word as pushy or too much, so people have a negative connotation about it. So if I'm talking about being intense, you might be like, no, I can't be intense, right? But for me, there's just some sort of power about it, some sort of firm, focused, heart-centered intentionality from it. So then I was like, oh, intention. Intense, intention. They've got a lot of letters in common. 5 to be exact off the start. I-N-T-E-N. So then I said, Google, school me on this a little bit. I-N-T-E-N. What's the root word? And so, or what's the root of this? What's the source of this? And so Google didn't go to I-N-T-E-N to see where that stemmed from, right? Because there's certain roots or prefixes, if you will, of a word. Like P-R-E means something, right? It means before, if you will. So any word that says pretext, pre-game, right? That means before. So we're like all on the same page. So what is this I-N-T-E-N? So I started looking at intense, and then it led me to intend. So intend was a word from the 1300s, and it simply meant to direct one's attention to. So being intentional, a lot of people throw that word around, right? I'm being intentional with my time, and a lot of people say, I intend to be there. Two completely different things. Because a lot of people that say, I intend to be there, they're basically saying like, I'm not going to make it. But then you want to see intention and to be firm in your intention, right? You've got to be your word all the way around. So intend, direct one's attention to, and then it said to pay heed. Then I looked up the word heed, and a later definition of the word heed meant attention. But also, in going back a little bit further, the word heed meant to guard and protect. So with the word intend, you must guard and protect your intention. And I promise you, if you do not have intensity behind that, how fixed and firm are you going to be on your vision, what you want to see, where you want to place your attention that you know is going to serve you? How much intensity do you have on that? And I'm an athlete. I used to play basketball. It was my favorite sport growing up. I like to say sometimes it was my first love. Loved basketball, still do. And I would, in games, if my coach saw me being lackadaisical, if he saw the team being lackadaisical, he would say, turn up the intensity, which basically meant freaking go for it. Go for those loose balls, go for the the hard drive. Go a little bit harder, right? So if I'm looking at intention and I'm looking at intensity and I'm trying to see that these are two separate things, even though they have the first 5 letters of the word, they must go hand in hand. And so I'm starting to find this new gear in myself that I can be a little bit more intense, a little bit more fiery, but still at the same time lead from love, because it's always grounded in love. Like, this is the reason I'm doing what I'm doing today, is because I care deeply for people. I care deeply for people and helping them to solve the problems they need to solve in order to get out and do their lives, live their lives. Not from a place of complacency, not from a place of, oh, it's okay, not from a place of babying yourself, but from knowing that you can and will do better. And yet again, this isn't a hustle speech. This isn't a work until your eyeballs speech, but this is a sermon, if you will, because I feel this in my heart. This is a lesson in turning up the intensity on the things that you want, the intention, the place you want to hold your attention, and also squeezing out that BS that goes on inside your mind. And not from a place of these tricky, prompts and things of that nature, but just see it sometimes and be like, no, enough. I'm over it. I'm done. I've already committed to this. I'm not doing this. Thank you for trying to protect me, doing what you do. Thank you for trying to keep me safe, but no, I'm done with it. And this isn't to box any part of myself out, because when I do this, I feel more whole and centered and in my power than ever before. When I had this tough conversation with myself, I said, get your ass in this water, right? This wasn't to beat myself up or to put myself down. It was to lift myself up. And I saw that clearly and I felt that clearly. And it wasn't a, just get in there. It was a stop freaking messing around. Do it now. And I felt that in my heart, and I feel that in my heart right here and right now. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs, especially those of you with big hearts, huge hearts. We don't want to ruffle any feathers sometimes. We're sitting back and we're thinking, and we want to do things right. We don't want to waste time. We don't want to get out of alignment, right? We don't want to offend anybody. We don't want to be too intense, too much, because our whole entire lives we were taught to live in a box. Stay over there. Be quiet. Don't interrupt. Don't be too loud. And then we're trying to show up with our hearts as entrepreneurs. We got this programming that says it's not safe. It's not safe to do outlandish things. It's not safe to speak your mind. It's not safe to call what you're speaking a sermon. It was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have called it that. Like, shush, enough. We're having fun here. Let's go. And I know this is going to help the person that it's meant to help, even if it's one person, even if it's 5 million people. It's coming from a place of intent, but also with intensity. So intent is also the goal, the aim, the purpose, and also attention. And it also comes from the Latin word intentius, which means stretching out, leaning forwards, and even strain. If you think about weightlifting, you're going to strain your muscles in order to grow. So if you think you're going to grow by just getting in alignment and just finding the way that the things are easy and not wanting to do the hard things, promise you, it's going to take some time. If that's the route you want to go, that's fine. That's the route I went for a long time. I had to build myself up for this, but I saw the moments of opportunity to act just a little faster, just to do it. Oh man, I don't know how this promotion's going to go. I don't know if anybody's going to buy. I don't know if I'm going to waste my advertising dollars. Boom, just do it, right? I'm not talking about being reckless. I'm talking about being intentional, protecting and guarding that attention, but also having intensity behind it. Because if we're just playing this game of holding our attention in a good place and thinking that's going to allow us to move, sometimes we got to have a conversation with ourselves. Like, look, what is it? What is it? What are you fearing? What's the worst case scenario? What are we projecting onto the future? Where is this coming from? Let's get to the surface of it. Let's go. All right. And so being intense and intentional with yourself. No longer being lackadaisical. No longer falling back into that victim mentality because you didn't do the thing you said you were going to do again. It's time to go. It's time to go. And I know, last thing I'll say is a lot of entrepreneurs are in this gray area right now where they at once were having results and now things have gotten a little harder. The world switched. The market shifted. A whole bunch of new entrepreneurs probably came onto the space. You're comparing yourself with this person. You're comparing yourself with that person. There's this gray area that I'm fighting against right now. And this gray area is where people take a step back. Right? This entrepreneur journey, I will say, is not for everybody. But if you're listening to this, 100 million, 1,000, gazillion %, it's for you. But if you're taking a step back out of fear and out of allowing your mind to talk you out of doing the stuff that you know is on your heart and the stuff that you know you want to do, that, my friend, is where we need to put a hard stop to. Hard stop to it. And it's not even a dismiss of talk to the hand because the face ain't listening. We're flipping it on ourselves because we know what we're capable of. And so I'm not talking down to myself and I'm not talking down to you. But I'm going to light a fire to let myself know this isn't the time to weasel out of this. This isn't a time to baby yourself. This isn't a time to let go. This is not a time to step back. This is a time to lean forward. So, same thing as always. Let's go help somebody. Find it in your heart, in yourself, to stop with the thinking, to stop with the delaying, to stop with the procrastination and the perfectionism, to stop it. Just lean in, one step at a time. That's all we can do, one step at a time. But if you're waiting months and months and months to take that one step, you're waiting far too long. So let's go help somebody today. Thank you for listening. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been 3 months. Literally, I feel like I blinked, 3 months went by. But I'm still here. I'm still fighting. I'm still ready to help and to be of service. And I'm finding this new level, this next level, this next gear within myself to shut out all the noise. Because look, there's a lot of people, like I said, there's a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business people, a lot of people that are in this gray area that are taking a step back. They're starting to just roll with life. They're getting in complacency, not from a place of, oh, life is good, I'm cool, but from a place of like, I don't know if I can do this. And it's that gap, it's that voice that I'm here to squeeze the hell out of that right now for myself. And I invite you to do the same for you as well. No longer let yourself off the hook. There's people out there that need our help. So damn it, let's go help them. All right, guys. Thank you for being with me. I do want to say, I almost forgot. I do want to say that one of the things that I'm calling myself on right now that I've been thinking about and waiting for the right time and all that for years is, for the first time ever, I am launching a mastermind. I am inviting and opening up applications for a select group of people. We're going to start with 12. It's just a solid number, divisible by threes. You guys know I love the number 3. 12 souls that know the importance of working close together with other like-minded entrepreneurs who are up to big things. And not in some big group coaching program and not just taking another course or a program. This is about you. This is about getting yourself in a room to where you're not the smartest person in the room anymore. You're with people who are up to big things and who are being courageous, who just by being in that room through osmosis, you're going to start showing up in a whole new way. So if you're looking and open to a new environment, to really rattle the paradigm, to shake things up, to look at business and life in a whole new perspective, I invite you to apply for the first time ever to the Business Ascension Mastermind. You can go to adamkadoo.com/mastermind to apply. And here's the thing. I have a select group of people that I have known through the years, I've worked closely with, I've basically partnered with at times, who are the absolute best of the best. And I have my Dream 25, Dream 30 list of people who I'm inviting. And so just know with the people who say yes to that invite, this room is going to be like no other room out there. Because it's the people who have the hugest hearts and who have a lot of experience, a lot of smarts, who are actually in the game doing the work, but also at the same time, they need your help too. They need your support too. They need your accountability too. They need to know what you know. So this isn't the Adam Kadu show. This isn't the Adam Kadu mastermind. This is the Business Ascension Mastermind. And there's going to be a whole lot more ascending than just your business. And so put yourself in a room full of experts, full of people who are doing the work, who are up to big things. And this is your guys' mastermind. I'm here to help facilitate it. Yes, I'm here to help guide and coach at times. But for the most part, this is going to be you guys getting to know each other, partnering, forming strategic alliances to make sure that you're set up now and well into the future. Because we're really stepping foot into a world where partnerships, where community, and not just community of thousands of people, not even community of hundreds of people, right? We still need to have these close-knit communities. It's kind of like, what's the show I'm thinking of? Where they formed just alliances in that house or whatever. I can't remember. My wife would kill me that I forgot the name of the show. What is that show called? Big Brother. So there's alliances within alliances sometimes. So when you can really get to know somebody, get to know their story, their work, their heart, their message, chances are there's some synergy in each other's audiences to where you can endorse each other. But also you're going to learn more about health. You're going to learn more about focus, more about productivity, more about being organized, more about energy, more about business, more about strategies, more about approaches, things that are working well for others. That's what this mastermind is all about. So yet again, you can go to adamkadoo.com/mastermind to see more about it and to apply. And it would be an honor seeing your application roll through. Okay, you guys, I will end there. Let me know how else I can help. Hit me up over on Instagram. I'm sharing a lot of fun stuff. I've been spending a lot of time with the kids, so I'm doing some cool vlogs over there. We just went bowling, so I'm getting ready to publish that. Just cute little videos of the fam just having fun, and I really like to create videos in a way that are engaging and fun, so that way you can break out of the mold a little bit and start to see what exactly is possible for you and your family and your business and your life, because that's all I can do. I cannot convince you of anything. I cannot talk you into anything. I cannot even offer advice that is out of alignment of my experiences. All I can simply do is lead by example and share those experiences that I have had. And from there, you take what you need, and I'll take what I need, and we'll grow, and we'll meet back up at the top, and we'll keep doing this thing. So thank you again for listening from the bottom of my heart. And until next time, go help somebody today. The world needs more heart-centered leaders now more than ever. So let's go lead. Let's do it. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Adam Kadu podcast. If you would, take a moment to subscribe and click the bell icon so that way you get notified when future episodes air. Now here's the thing. If you are looking for the show notes, you can find a link to those below. If you're looking for the handles of the guests that I've been interviewing, things of that nature, you'll find that here. And if there's anything else that stood out to you in the episode, or if there's anything I can do for you, please leave a comment below, or for sure message me on Instagram if you'd like, as I'm always looking to hear what's working well for you and what caught your interest about the Adam Kadu podcast. So, time to go, time to change the world, time to help more people. Are you ready? Let's go do this thing. The world needs more leaders. So thanks again for listening to the Adam Kadu podcast.